After finishing an unfamiliar shift, I was walking home at night. Earlier in the day, I had been roped into helping my son's wife, Christina, with the preparations for a party that I couldn't even attend, doubling my exhaustion. But it was a celebration for my granddaughter, Emma, and just imagining how happy my grandson, David, would be as a big brother kept my spirits up. As I passed by my house, I noticed the lights were still on. Glancing at my watch, it was already past 9 p.m. I realized it was time to put David to bed. But as I looked towards the house again, I saw something unbelievable. There was David, sitting alone in the garden, staring into the room. Why is he outside? David, what's wrong? I rushed over. Seeing me, David smiled with relief. But the next moment, he burst into tears. What happened? Why are you out here alone? David, seemingly wanting to say something, started with an apologetic tone. It's Emma's birthday today, but they said I can't join because it's a family-only celebration, he sobbed. That's terrible. Unable to bear it, I silently pulled David by the arm and walked out of the gate. Not again, something that shouldn't have happened, happened. You haven't eaten anything since lunch, right? I'm tired from work too, and I'm starving. Let's go grab something tasty to eat. I tried to sound as cheerful as usual to comfort David. Sensing something, David brightened up and responded. I left David alone at the table in the diner for a moment. Pretending to go to the drink area, I took out my cell phone. It's been a while since I've contacted them, but I wonder if they'll answer. After a few rings, a puzzled voice answered. Hello. I said my name, apologized for calling late at night, and briefly explained the situation David was in. The person on the line responded, I'll be there right away, and hung up. After a while, a woman entered the diner. When I raised my hand towards the entrance, the woman noticed and hurried over to our table. David, looking up at her with a confused expression, was embraced by the woman, unable to hold back her tears.
Mom, is that you?
I am Emily Johnson. I am 57 years old. My husband passed away a year ago, and I live in the house he left behind. My family consists of my son, his wife, and 2 grandchildren, making us a family of 5. It's a complicated story, but my son, Mike, is divorced, and his wife, Christina, is his second. David, the older grandchild, is from Mike's first marriage, and therefore has no blood relation to Christina and the younger grandchild, Emma. Mike returned to our house with David 3 years ago after his first wife cheated on him. At that time, David was emotionally unstable, yearning for his mother in this unfamiliar house. He was only 2 years old. Seeing David like that, I devotedly took care of him. The following year, Mike brought Christina home.
Mom, I'm going to remarry her,
he announced suddenly. While I thought he was busy with work, he was actually dating her. Although his own son was in emotional turmoil, he had been out having fun. Which left me speechless and disappointed, even though he's my own son.
Also, she's pregnant.
He added, shocking me further.
Sorry for the sudden news, but I hope we can get along.
It's a hassle to look for a new house, and this one's big with extra rooms. So we thought we'd just live here. That's all right, isn't it?
Mike said with such audacity. But knowing she was pregnant, how could I have turned her away? And so began our life together with my son, Mike, his wife, Christina, and my grandkids. I don't know much about Mike's ex-wife since we lived apart, but Christina didn't do much housework. She seemed to get along well with David, so I thought she couldn't be all bad. However, using her pregnancy as an excuse, she left all the housework to me. I was working part-time and honestly asked her to help a bit with the chores.
I have terrible morning sickness. My stomach hurts too much.
But she would always have an excuse. I couldn't push her. She seemed well enough, but I know pregnancy can be hard, so I didn't say anything. It feels like I'm being taken advantage of. My husband, who always listened to me, is no longer here.
If she says she's suffering, you should be more considerate. No one likes a strict mill these days. Anyway, is dinner ready yet?
Mike didn't take me seriously when I tried talking to him about it. I didn't like the way he said, anyway. It was tough holding back my heavy feelings every day. As these days went by, Emma was born. I couldn't see David much when he was born because we lived far away. Living with a baby close by, what a joy it is. Of course, it doesn't mean I love David any less. Seeing a new life born, David's eyes sparkled with pride at becoming a big brother, determined to protect his little sister. I could sense his feelings. I vowed in my heart to love both equally, without comparison. As Emma grew, Christina became harsher with David. She didn't carry him in her womb, and now that she had her own daughter, her love for Emma seemed to take precedence. I guess some women get irritable after giving birth, so maybe it's understandable. I decided to step in and support David more. But Christina's attitude only got worse. Still, David wanted to believe in Christina, who had been kind to him. He tried to help around the house and attract her attention. One day, I came home from my morning shift and heard Christina's shouting from outside.
Why can't you do this simple thing? You're just making more work for me.
It seemed she was scolding David. Apparently, he tried to make baby formula, but accidentally spilled it. There, it's just a kid's mistake. No need to get so mad. He's trying to help. That's enough, right? I tried to calm Christina.
Emily, please keep quiet. If you're going to interfere, you clean up the spilled formula.
I couldn't believe she yelled at a child like that. The depth of a child's feelings when scolded by their parents is immeasurable. Sadness, frustration, regret. Seeing David trying to hold back his tears and emotions, I felt utterly heartbroken. Let Grandma take care of this, David. You've done a lot already. I hugged and comforted him, then cleaned the white-covered floor.
When little Emma does something clumsy, we say, "Oops." Big brother is really useless, isn't he?
Christina glanced at us scornfully before speaking to Emma, who still doesn't understand words. David, ignored by Christina, was trying his best. I struggled to contain my anger towards her. At dinner that evening, I noticed David was missing, so I asked Christina about it. What happened to David?
I don't know. Maybe he ran away from home after I scolded him.
Christina casually replied, "That couldn't be possible. David is only 4 years old. Where could he run away to?" Just then, Mike came home. "Mike, I can't find David anywhere," I said.
He's a boy. Maybe he's at the nearby park or something. Anyway, hi Emma, Daddy's home.
Mike seemed unconcerned. It was already past 7 p.m. Even if David was at the park, shouldn't they be worried? While Mike and Christina started eating the dinner I prepared, I rushed outside to look for David. I checked the nearby park, the route to the kindergarten, the usual grocery store. But David was nowhere to be found. Maybe he's back home by now, I thought, heading back. As I was about to open the front door, I heard a sound like metal being hit from the backyard. We have a small shed there. The sound seemed to be coming from it. No way, it can't be. That just wouldn't happen. Approaching the shed, I heard the sound of the door being banged on and a faint voice. "David, David, is that you?" I flung the door open to find David, his face swollen from crying, sitting there sobbing. How could they do this? I picked up David and hurried back to where Mike and Christina were eating, with a furious look. Seeing me like that, they looked at each other awkwardly. "What on earth is going on here?" I demanded, still holding the sobbing David.
I just heard from Christina."
Mike stammered. Christina, without a hint of remorse, blurted out,
"It's David's fault. He ruined Emma's milk."
What were they talking about? Just because he made a little mistake, they locked him in the shed. How could he eat dinner pretending not to know? I raised my voice in disbelief. "What are you saying? It was you who made him do it. Even so, this is too much. Don't you have any sense of being a mother?" Mike tried to intervene.
Now, Mom, calm down. Christina is just tired and irritable from taking care of Emma. Cut her some slack.
If you knew about this, you're just as guilty, locking a 4-year-old in a cramped, dark place like that. I was at a loss for words.
Well, I did tell her it was too much,
Mike said, trying to shift the blame onto Christina alone. Christina glared at him. "You should have let David out before stopping her. Are you even fit to be his father?" I said, silencing them both. I warned them. "If something like this ever happens again, I'll have you two leave this house."
What?
Mike stammered, and Christina looked down, unable to look me in the eye. I hoped that by saying this, it would prevent any repeat of such incidents. Without another look at them, I took David to the bath, fed him the reheated dinner, and tucked him into a warm bed. Throughout, David was desperately defending them.
It's my fault. I made Mom mad. She's not bad. Dad just got home from work. He was tired and hungry.
Hearing his brave words made me feel even sorrier for him. I resolved then to never take my eyes off their actions again. After that incident, Mike and Christina never apologized, but my main concern was for David's well-being. Despite what he had been through, he always helped around the house and never lost his smile. I don't know if my constant vigilance or their genuine remorse was the reason, but there were no more terrible incidents towards David. Although Christina sometimes made him do excessive chores or was harsh, David himself said,
Grandma, I'm fine. I want to help Mom. Plus, Emma is cute. As a big brother, I need to be strong.
His brave words left me speechless. I didn't want to intervene too much for fear that it might worsen Christina's mood and lead to another terrible incident. I wanted to avoid that at all costs. However, to my relief, Mike and Christina's behavior towards David eventually returned to how it was before Emma was born. It seemed that peace had returned, and I gradually let my guard down, returning to our usual life. 2 months had passed since that dreadful event. Peaceful days continued. One day, I was asked by my manager to change my shift at work. Usually, I worked only in the mornings, but they were short-staffed for the evening shift until closing. Since the incident with David, I had reduced my working days, and being someone who can't say no when asked for a favor, I agreed to the shift change.
Oh, Emily. Aren't you going to your part-time job today?
There's been a shift change. I'll be working this evening, so I'm counting on you to handle dinner tonight. I replied. Christina looked visibly annoyed at first, but then her expression suddenly brightened, as if she had an idea.
Then, how about we have an early birthday party for Emma today?
Planning a party while knowing I wouldn't be home. It seemed I wasn't invited to my dear granddaughter's first birthday celebration.
Well, I better start preparing for the party. I'll tell Mike to come home early.
Christina said, oblivious to my feelings.
So, Emily, I'm going out to shop. Please take care of Emma. Since you can't attend the party, that's the least you can do.
She left Emma with me under the guise of shopping, giving us some time alone. How selfish she can be. Resigned to not making a fuss, I quickly took Emma from Christina and let her go shopping. That evening, after finishing my unusual shift, I walked home in the dark. I was doubly tired because Christina had made me help prepare for a party I couldn't even attend. But the thought of celebrating Emma and seeing David happy kept my spirits up. As I passed by the house, I noticed it was still brightly lit. It was already past 9 p.m. I needed to put David to bed soon. Hopefully, I won't be stuck with cleaning up after the party. As I looked towards the house again, I saw a sight that I couldn't believe. David was sitting alone in the garden, staring into the room. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Why is David outside? I hurried to the front entrance, then rushed around to the garden. David, what's wrong? As I approached, he gave a look of relief, and then, the next moment, his face crumpled as he began to cry. What happened? Why are you out here alone? I asked, trying not to barrage him with questions, but I couldn't help myself. David, trembling with sobs, couldn't find the words to reply. How about we go inside for now? I suggested. He looked at me with a surprised expression, as if he wanted to say something. Then he started with an apologetic tone.
Today is Emma's birthday. But they said it's a family-only celebration, so I'm not allowed in.
He murmured through sobs. How could they? I couldn't hold back any more and, without a word, took David's arm and started walking out of the gate. Not again, this shouldn't have happened.
What's wrong, Grandma? Are you mad? Where are we going?
David asked me anxiously. Realizing I had let my emotions get the better of me, I replied, You've been outside without eating anything since lunch, right? Grandma is tired from work too, and I'm hungry. Let's go get something delicious to eat. I spoke in my usual cheerful tone to reassure him. It seemed to work, as David responded brightly. Bringing a child to a diner at night. I was worried about what others might think, but none of the other customers or even the staff seemed to pay us any attention. I left David at the table and stood up. I'm going to get us some juice, I said, pretending to head to the drink area, but instead taking out my cell phone. It's been a while, but I wonder if they'll answer. After a few rings, a puzzled voice answered. I said my name and apologized for calling late at night, and briefly explained David's current situation. The person on the line said she'd come right away and hung up. When I returned to the table, David was eating the fries he had ordered.
You took a while, didn't you?
He asked, drinking the melon soda I had placed on the table and looking at me anxiously. I couldn't decide what you'd like to drink. I made an excuse, but David quickly changed his expression.
I love melon soda,
he said, cheerfully gulping it down. He's still just 5 years old. Coming to a diner at this hour, he didn't even get excited. He waited quietly at the table, even concerned about looking mature. Why does such a good child have to go through this? I could only watch, filled with regret, as he quietly munched on his fries. When David finished his fries, he seemed restless. What do you think? Should we order a hamburger too? I suggested.
Maybe we should go home soon? Won't they get mad?
He replied with a worried look on his face. Even though he said that we couldn't go home just yet. How should I explain this to David? As I pondered this, a woman entered the diner. I glanced at the entrance and waved to her. The woman noticed and hurried over to our table.
Who is that?
David looked up at her with a puzzled expression. The woman, unable to hold back her tears, embraced David. This was Ashley, David's biological mother, whom I had called earlier.
Mom, is it really you?
It seemed like David suddenly remembered too. Mike and Ashley's divorce happened when David was 2 years old, 3 years ago. Yet, David still remembered his biological mother. She was the mother he had yearned for when he first came to our house. And Ashley, too, had never forgotten David for even a moment. As the two of them calmed down from their crying, I explained everything to Ashley. How Christina had been harsh with David. The incident where he spilled the baby formula and was locked in the shed. And today, being excluded from Emma's birthday party because he was not family. I'm sorry, I should have watched over him more closely.
No, Emily, you don't have to apologize. You've been protecting David, haven't you? And you called me here.
I had hesitated to call her here because Mike had told me Ashley had an affair, which led to their divorce. But she seemed different from what I had imagined. You're David's biological mother. I called you on a whim, but I hope I didn't inconvenience you. Do you have a new partner or family? As I hesitantly asked. Ashley raised her voice.
No, I don't. All I wanted was David.
What did she mean? When I relayed what Mike had told me about their divorce, Ashley, turning pale, began to tell the truth.
Actually, Mike and that woman, Christina, were having an affair.
As she gazed sadly at the sleeping David, Ashley revealed the truth about Mike and Christina's relationship that began around the time David was born. Then, a man claiming to be a lawyer suddenly appeared before Ashley, presenting documents about her alleged affair and neglect of David, leading to the divorce, alimony, and child support discussions. Ashley had lost her parents early and was isolated. She had no one to turn to. After marrying Mike, she had become estranged from her friends. And as a stay-at-home mom devoted to baby David, had only superficial interactions with neighbors. In such weak social connections, gathering evidence to prove her innocence was difficult. I said, feeling dizzy with the revelation. I wish you had relied on me.
But at that time, I was so shocked by Mike's betrayal. I even doubted you.
Ashley admitted apologetically. I felt ashamed of my son's actions and regretted not connecting more closely with Ashley at that time. I hated myself for it. Really? I'm sorry. So, have you been paying child support?
Yes, my parents left me some money, and I was fortunate to reconnect with my previous employer. I've managed to pay child support without fail, for David's sake.
Hearing this, I couldn't listen anymore. I had been living obliviously with that couple. I don't even know how to apologize.
It's okay, Emily. You haven't done anything wrong. And finally, I got to see David. That alone makes all the child support worth it.
Ashley's expression was calm as she spoke. By the way, Mike has custody of David, but you haven't seen him, have you? I brought up the question that had been bothering me. As expected, Ashley's face darkened.
Since the divorce was finalized, I haven't seen him. Not even once.
She replied in a thin voice. I couldn't contain my emotions any longer. Ashley, I've made up my mind. David's parents aren't those two, it's you alone. I won't let them take David away from you anymore, I declared. Ashley looked at me in surprise. Then, she nodded firmly, seemingly agreeing with my determination.
I wasn't doing nothing, actually.
Ashley said, revealing that she had already hired a lawyer to counter the fraudulent alimony claims and to sue Mike and Christina for damages. The lawyer Ashley hired discovered that the attorney Mike and Christina had used was not a real lawyer, but just their friend. I'll help you, for David's sake. Forming a team with Ashley in that late-night diner. 3 months passed, and I continued my usual life, making sure David came to no harm. One day, Ashley and her lawyer came to our house. Mike and Christina were surprised and flustered, but I calmed them and had them sit down.
What brings you here today?
Christina asked, trying to act tough.
We're here to discuss the compensation claims against you and Mike, and to talk about transferring David's custody to us.
Ashley calmly responded to the challenge.
Compensation. That should be about you, shouldn't it? Mike told me about you.
Christina mocks the former wife.
Well, that makes sense, considering you were Mike's mistress.
What an outrageous thing to say. I met Mike only after your divorce.
Silently observing the exchange between his ex-wife and current wife, Mike remained quiet. Let's all calm down. First, let's hear from the lawyer, I interjected, pretending to be unaware of the truth, while subtly steering the conversation towards Ashley.
Please take a look at this document.
The lawyer said, unfolding a report prepared by the fake lawyer, hired by Christina and Mike.
This is the report given by Mike's attorney at the time of his divorce from Ashley.
Such an old document. What proof could it possibly be?
Christina said, clearly flustered.
What about it? I too had a proper lawyer.
Mike began, but was interrupted by Ashley's lawyer.
Was that really a lawyer? Which firm were they from?
What?
Ignoring Mike's struggle to respond, the lawyer continued.
As a fellow lawyer, I must say, this report lacks credibility. The evidence photos are clearly fabricated, and the claims of Ashley's neglect are too ambiguous.
But it was this evidence that led to their divorce.
Christina, desperate to defend her position, insisted.
Indeed, Ashley did divorce based on these accusations, but the child support claims were excessively high. Besides, despite paying child support, she hasn't been allowed to see her child even once, right?
Well, that's because David didn't want to see her.
How could that be? I thought to myself, recalling how much David had longed for his mother after the divorce. I shivered with anger.
But she did neglect him, didn't she? Regardless of how vague the testimonies were, they were still there.
Christina argued, regaining some of her composure.
Would you like to see the child care diary I kept at that time?
Ashley then pulled out a notebook. An ordinary, well-worn B5 size notebook. The cover read, David's Child Care Diary.
Such a thing could easily be filled in later.
However, when Ashley silently showed the contents of the diary, Christina's face drained of color. It was filled with detailed records of David's feeding, diaper changes, sleep times, and at the end of each day, a short diary entry by Ashley. In the empty spaces, there were also messages to David. Christina, who is raising her 1-year-old daughter Emma, should surely understand. Could a person accused of neglect keep such a meticulously detailed child care diary? Christina was left speechless by what she saw. And Mike, watching her, looked utterly bewildered. Apparently, the concepts of genuine childcare were beyond him.
In this diary, there's a section where Johnson's actions are also recorded.
Me?
Mike, already worn out, was taken aback.
It includes details like coming home late from work or going on business trips.
Ashley added with a tone suggesting she knew more.
But this doesn't expose any affair.
Christina insisted. True, a diary alone isn't enough for proof.
That's where we had to dig deeper.
Suddenly, Christina seemed to remember something and became visibly flustered.
I've kept Mike's credit card statements. They were tucked away in the household budget book after our divorce.
Neither Christina nor Mike seemed ready to argue.
On the day Mike claimed to be on a business trip, but didn't return, the credit card statement listed a charge from a resort hotel.
Ashley continued smoothly.
And on the same day, there's a photo posted on a woman's social media. The hashtags include the hotel's name and words like secret.
That's just a coincidence. That could happen to anyone.
Christina's desperate defense was palpable.
Well, this lady, despite talking about secrets, seems to be flaunting something in her photos.
Ashley pressed on.
Is this watch in the picture Mike's?
She asked. I noticed the shock in both Christina and Mike's expressions.
Isn't this a common design?
I see. Christina was unaware. This was a gift from my husband and me to Ashley and Mike when they got married. It's a pair of custom-made watches. I interjected, playing dumb.
No. It can't be.
The room fell silent for a moment.
Okay, enough.
Mike said resignedly. Ashley then gave a knowing glance to her lawyer.
Since the person involved has admitted it, this helps us a lot. We'll proceed with the settlement without going to mediation.
I won't accept this. I'll even take it to court.
Christina retorted defiantly, but the lawyer continued.
Shall we also discuss the fake report created by the so-called lawyer? We have already heard his side of the story, you know.
What?
Apparently, the fake lawyer was Christina's friend and ex-boyfriend. It seems he had been funneling Ashley's alimony and child support to himself.
Once we discussed the possibility of forgery of private documents, he was quite willing to share everything.
Christina had no comeback. Through the gap in the sliding doors, David peeked in, asking, "Mom, what's wrong?" "It's nothing," Ashley replied, her face bright with relief.
Let's go home to your new house with Mom.
Later, instead of a settlement, a trial took place. This time, Christina and Mike hired a real lawyer. But the outcome was clear. Ashley won custody of David. Mike and Christina's past actions were recognized as criminal. They were ordered to return the excessive alimony and child support they had fraudulently claimed due to the Fuge documents, and pay alimony and child support to Ashley. This led to Mike and Christina blaming each other, eventually resulting in divorce. Christina was disowned by her family, and Emma was taken in by her grandparents. Christina apparently ended up in debt and working in the adult entertainment industry, a fate she brought upon herself. Of course, I cut ties with Mike. I had no intention of taking care of a criminal. Since then, I've let go of the house we used to live in, and now enjoy a peaceful life alone. While Mike continues to pay Ashley, I have no interest in what he's up to. As for Ashley, she and David often visit me. Our relationship has evolved into a friendship. Ashley, in fact, seems to have a budding romance with a lawyer from that time. She comes over for relationship advice, and it looks like David gets along well with him too. One day, while Ashley was discussing her love life with me, David suddenly said,
"Mom, I love seeing you smile. And I'm happiest when you and that guy are together."
A year has passed since then. Today is the day Ashley and David are visiting me. I couldn't wait, so I went down to the entrance of my apartment to meet them. I saw them walking towards me. David was considerately holding Ashley's hand. Such a kind child.
Did you come all the way down to meet us? Emily, thank you so much.
It's nothing. I was looking forward to it. Plus, I said, taking her bag and glancing at her noticeably pregnant belly, "You're not just one person anymore."
I can't wait to meet the baby. Dad is excited too.
Watching their happy faces, I couldn't help but smile. Outside, the warm air of spring enveloped us.